This is not motivation for people who want to feel good. This is a wake-up call for people who want to win. Because right now, too many men are asleep while pretending they're thinking. Too many excuses, too much talking, too little action. And if that sentence makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the truth knocking on your door. A man doesn't rise because he's lucky. He rises because at some point he decides no more excuses. Not tomorrow, not next year, today. Here's the brutal reality nobody wants to say out loud. The world does not care how hard your life has been. It doesn't care about your past, your trauma, your bad luck, or your potential. The world only responds to strength, discipline, and results. You can cry about the cards you were dealt, or you can play the hand like a man and dominate the table. Weak men explain. Strong men execute. You say you want success, but your habits say you want comfort. You say you want respect, but your actions beg for sympathy. Every excuse you make is you admitting you're not in control. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'll start tomorrow. That's not honesty. That's cowardice dressed up as logic. Real men don't wait to feel ready. They move while it's hard. They move while it hurts. They move while everyone else is still negotiating with their fears. Let me tell you something simple and savage. Nobody is coming to save you. No mentor, no miracle, no motivational quote is going to change your life unless you change your behavior. You don't need more information. You need more aggression toward your own weakness. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you're building a man the world can't ignore. Every time you quit, you're teaching yourself that your word means nothing. Look around. The men you admire don't live soft lives. They wake up early. They train when they don't feel like it. They work when motivation is gone. They stay silent while building power. And when they speak, people listen. Not because of their words, but because of the life they've earned. Masculinity is not loud. Masculinity is effective. You want confidence. Stop lying to yourself. Confidence doesn't come from affirmations. It comes from keeping promises to yourself when it's uncomfortable. You want respect. Earn it. Respect is rented daily through discipline. Miss a day, and the rent is overdue. You want freedom. Pay for it with effort, pain, and consistency. Freedom is expensive, and weak men can't afford it. Here's a question most men are afraid to ask themselves. If someone watched your daily routine, would they call you dangerous or replaceable? Because average men are easy to ignore. They complain, they scroll, they wait. Dangerous men are different. They don't need applause. They don't need validation. They don't announce their plans. They just show up day after day until the results speak for them. Man up means taking full responsibility for your life. No blaming your parents. No blaming society. No blaming the system. You either control your actions or you surrender your future. There is no middle ground. Every excuse you make today becomes the prison you live in tomorrow. Every disciplined decision becomes a weapon you can use for the rest of your life. Understand this. Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure reveals you. When life squeezes you, excuses leak out, or strength does. That's why hard times create strong men and easy times create excuses. If your life feels heavy right now, good. That weight is building the version of you that can carry more money, more responsibility, more power. Stop asking for motivation. Start demanding discipline. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation feels good. Discipline changes lives. And the men who win aren't special. They're just allergic to excuses. They don't negotiate with laziness. They don't romanticize struggle. They do the work and move on. So here's the line you need to tattoo into your mind: no excuses. Not for your body, not for your finances, not for your mindset. If something matters to you, act like it. If you keep making excuses, admit the truth. It doesn't matter enough yet, and that's fine. Just don't lie to yourself and call it ambition. Listen carefully, because this is the moment most men try to skip. This is the part where excuses usually step in to protect your ego. No one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not your family, not society, not luck. And the faster you accept that, the faster your life changes. Weak men wait. Strong men decide. Waiting feels safe, but it slowly destroys you from the inside. Every day you wait for help is another day you confirm to yourself that you are powerless. Here's the uncomfortable truth: rescue mentality is a disease. It makes men passive, emotional, and dependent. You tell yourself stories like, once things improve, once I get support, Once someone notices me, that day never comes. The world does not reward potential, intentions, or suffering. It rewards ownership. The moment you fully own your life, your failures, your position, your results, is the moment you stop being a victim and start becoming dangerous. Think about this for a second. If nobody is coming, that means nobody can stop you either. That's not depressing. That's freedom. That's power. When you stop waiting for permission, you start moving differently. You stop asking, is this fair? And start asking, what's my next move? Men who win don't complain about the rules of the game. They master them. Men who lose keep arguing with reality until time crushes them. Most men secretly want sympathy. They want someone to understand how hard it's been. But sympathy never built empires. Sympathy never made men rich, respected, or feared. Responsibility did. Ownership did. Pressure did. The men you admire didn't get saved. They adapted. They didn't get comfort. They got disciplined. They didn't wait for a sign. They became one. Here's a hook most people don't want to hear. The longer you wait to be saved, the more you train yourself to be weak. Every delay reinforces hesitation. Every excuse strengthens fear, and fear compounds. It grows quietly while you scroll, talk, and plan. Then one day you wake up older, angrier, and still stuck. Not because you lack talent, but because you lacked urgency. Nobody is coming means your problems are yours. Your body is yours. Your finances are yours. Your mindset is yours. And that level of responsibility scares people because it removes all escape routes. You can't blame your past when you accept full control. You can't blame people when you take ownership. That's why most men avoid this truth. It demands action. Look at the men who dominate life. They don't have better excuses than you. They have fewer. They don't wait for motivation. They operate on standards. They don't need encouragement. They move on discipline. When things go wrong, they don't ask, why me? They ask, what now? That single shift separates spectators from leaders. Another hard truth: help often comes after progress, not before it. The world supports momentum, not potential. When you start moving, doors open. When you build results, people listen. When you become strong, opportunities appear. But nobody invests in men who are still waiting to be rescued. You earn support by showing strength first. Understand this deeply. Accepting that no one is coming is the moment you grow up. It's the moment excuses lose their power. It's the moment you stop negotiating with laziness and start enforcing standards. Life becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. Do the work or accept the consequences. Move or be moved on. If your life feels heavy right now, that's because responsibility has finally landed on your shoulders. Don't shrug it off. Carry it. That weight is shaping you into someone who doesn't need saving, someone who doesn't beg, someone who doesn't wait. And once you become that man, the world responds differently, not because it's kind, but because strength demands respect. Every excuse you make feels harmless in the moment. It sounds reasonable, logical, even intelligent. But here's the reality most men refuse to face. Excuses are not protection, they are betrayal. Not of others, of yourself. Every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, I'm tired, the timing isn't right, you are quietly telling yourself that your word means nothing. And once your word loses value with you, nothing else in your life can hold weight. Most people don't expect excuses, don't remove pressure. They delay pain, and delayed pain always comes back heavier. The work you avoid today doesn't disappear, it waits. It grows. And when it returns, it demands interest. Men who understand this stop making excuses not because they are tougher, but because they are smarter. They know avoidance is expensive. Excuses are seductive because they make you feel justified while keeping you weak. They allow you to stay comfortable without admitting cowardice. You tell yourself you're being patient, realistic, or careful. But underneath that language is fear. Fear of failure, fear of discomfort, fear of being exposed. And fear unchallenged becomes a permanent resident in your mind. Watch how excuses work. They always sound personal, but they follow a pattern. I don't have time. Yet you have hours for distractions. I'm not ready, yet ready never arrives. Others had it easier, yet comparison has never built a man. Excuses repeat until your life repeats. Same days, same problems, same frustration, different years. Here's a hard truth. Excuses feel honest, but they are lies you agree with. Reality doesn't care about your reasons. Results don't negotiate. The world doesn't reward effort explained. It rewards effort executed. That's why two men can face the same obstacles and end up in completely different positions. One made excuses. The other made adjustments. Excuses are also addictive. The more you use them, the more you need them. At first, they help you sleep at night. Later, they become the reason you can't wake up hungry. Ambition dies slowly, buried under rationalizations. And the scariest part is this happens quietly. No alarms, no warnings, just a gradual lowering of standards until mediocrity feels normal. Men who win treat excuses like threats. They shut them down immediately. Not because they don't feel tired or discouraged, but because they don't allow feelings to override commitments. They understand that discipline is choosing long-term respect over short-term comfort. And every time they act despite resistance, they reinforce an identity that says, I do what I said I would do. Another hook you need to hear: excuses are how potential rots. Talent unused becomes regret. Opportunities ignored become resentment. The pain you avoid today becomes the bitterness you carry tomorrow. And that bitterness doesn't stay quiet. It leaks into your tone, your attitude, your relationships. You start blaming the world for a war you never showed up to fight. Excuses also destroy self-trust. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, you stop believing in yourself. Confidence disappears not because you failed, but because you never tried consistently. Confidence is built through evidence, and excuses erase evidence. Look closely at men you respect. They don't have magical discipline. They simply made a rule early on: no excuses. Not when it's inconvenient. Not when it's uncomfortable. Especially not then. They understand that the moment you allow one excuse, you open the door for many. Standards drop fast when enforcement disappears. If you want to change your life, stop asking if your excuse sounds reasonable and start asking if it produces results. Comfort will always offer you a story. Discipline offers you a future. The choice is made daily in small moments when no one is watching, and those moments decide everything. Masculinity is not a personality trait you're born with, and it's not something you can fake with words, posture, or attitude. It is built the hard way, through discipline applied daily, especially when you don't feel like it. Most men miss discipline is not restriction, it is control. And the man who controls himself will eventually control his environment. Every undisciplined man is at the mercy of his impulses, his emotions, and his excuses. That is not strength, that is chaos. Discipline is what separates men who talk about becoming powerful from men who actually become powerful. Motivation comes and goes. Confidence fluctuates. Mood changes. Discipline stays. It shows up when energy is low and excuses are loud. And every time you choose discipline over comfort, you reinforce a masculine identity that doesn't bend under pressure. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. Most men misunderstand masculinity because they confuse aggression with strength. Real masculinity is quiet. It's consistent. It's the ability to do what needs to be done without needing applause. Anyone can feel motivated after a video. Anyone can feel confident on a good day. But waking up early when you're tired, training when it hurts, working when no one is watching, that's masculinity in action. Here's a truth that hits hard: your daily habits are louder than your self-image. You can say you're a man of standards, but your routine exposes the truth. Discipline shows up in how you train your body, how you manage your time, how you control your urges, and how you respond under stress. Men without discipline are easily manipulated by emotions, distractions, pleasure, and pressure. Men with discipline are grounded, predictable to themselves, dangerous to obstacles. Discipline builds self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of masculinity. When you keep promises to yourself, you begin to trust yourself. When you trust yourself, you stop seeking validation from the outside world. You don't need approval because you have evidence. That evidence compounds. One disciplined decision leads to another, and over time, you become a man who doesn't need to announce strength. People feel it. Another hook most people avoid: discipline hurts before it pays. At first, it feels lonely. You're saying no when others say yes. You're working while others relax. You're silent while others complain. That isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. Masculinity is forged in moments where comfort is available, but you refuse it. Every refusal sharpens you. Undisciplined men chase pleasure and call it freedom. Disciplined men delay pleasure and earn real freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of confidence, freedom of respect. A man who can't control his sleep, his diet, his habits, or his emotions will never control money, power, or leadership. Discipline is the entry fee. Look closely at men who command respect without asking for it. They don't argue much. They don't explain themselves repeatedly. They move with calm certainty. That calm comes from structure, from knowing they will do the work regardless of mood. Their masculinity isn't loud because it doesn't need to be proven. Discipline also removes internal conflict. When you live undisciplined, your mind is noisy, guilt, regret, self-doubt. When you live disciplined, your mind becomes sharp, clear, focused. You know who you are because your actions confirm it daily. That clarity is rare, and rarity creates value. Masculinity is not built in dramatic moments. It's built in boring repetition. The same habits, the same standards, the same commitments enforced daily. Men who embrace discipline stop asking how to become stronger. They already know. They do the work again and again until strength becomes normal. Most men wait for a feeling that never arrives. They tell themselves they'll act when they're confident, when they're prepared, when fear disappears. That moment is a myth. Readiness is a story comfort tells you to keep you still. You need to hear action creates readiness, not the other way around. Men who wait to feel ready stay stuck. Men who move while uncertain build momentum that kills doubt. Fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that growth is nearby. Every meaningful upgrade in your life sits on the other side of discomfort, and discomfort never asks if you're prepared. If you only move when conditions are perfect, you'll never move at all. The world belongs to men who act with imperfect information, shaky confidence, and a racing heart. They don't feel fearless. They feel committed. Most hesitation is disguised as planning. You research, you think, you analyze, you get clarity. Meanwhile, time passes and opportunities expire. Here's the truth: clarity comes after movement. You don't think your way into action, you act your way into clarity. Once you start, the path reveals itself. Once you commit, the mind aligns. Waiting to feel ready is procrastination with better branding. Acting before you feel ready forces growth at a speed comfort can't match. When you step into pressure, you adapt. When you take responsibility early, you become capable faster. This is how confidence is built, through affirmations, not motivation. Evidence. Each small action taken under doubt becomes proof that you can handle more. And that proof compounds. Another hook most people avoid readiness is often just permission seeking. You want a green light from the world, from people, from circumstances. Real men give themselves permission. They don't need consensus to move. They don't wait for applause to begin. They understand that hesitation is expensive and courage pays dividends. Look at men who dominate their field. They started before they felt qualified. They spoke before they felt polished. They showed up before they felt welcome. And they learned fast because pressure accelerates learning. Mistakes made in motion teach more than plans made in comfort. The man who acts gets feedback. The man who waits gets regret. Acting early also separates you from the crowd. Most people hesitate at the same time for the same reasons. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of looking foolish. When you move despite those fears, you immediately reduce competition. You're no longer fighting the masses. You're building distance. That distance becomes leverage. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you act before you feel ready. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking permission from your emotions. You become decisive. Decisiveness is a masculine advantage. It simplifies life. Fewer debates, fewer delays, more execution. And execution is where outcomes are decided. Understand this clearly. Waiting feels safe, but it erodes self-trust. Every time you hesitate, you teach yourself that fear is in charge. Acting, even imperfectly, reverses that relationship. You show yourself who's in control. And once control is established, fear loses its grip. It doesn't disappear, but it obeys. Acting early doesn't mean acting recklessly. It means acting responsibly with urgency. It means taking the next hard step instead of waiting for the perfect plan. It means starting small but starting now. Momentum is built through movement, not thought. Speed favors the committed. Men who act before they feel ready live with fewer what-ifs. They trade imagined safety for real progress. They understand that confidence is rented daily through action. Miss a day, and doubt moves back in. Show up again, and certainty returns. If you want a different life, you must adopt a different rule. Move first, adjust second. The world respects men who step forward under pressure. And pressure has a way of turning uncertainty into strength, faster than comfort ever could. Respect is not given because you ask for it, and it's not handed out because you want it badly enough. Respect is earned, and the currency is pain. That's the part most men want to skip. That separates men immediately. If you avoid pain, you forfeit respect every single time. The world can sense comfort seeking behavior. It can smell hesitation, and it responds accordingly. Pain is not about suffering for attention. It's about voluntary discomfort chosen for growth. Training when your body says stop. Working when your mind begs for distraction. Saying no when pleasure is easy and discipline is hard. That pain builds capacity, and capacity builds presence. Men with presence don't demand respect, it follows them into the room. Most men want the outcome without the cost. They want confidence without pressure, status without sacrifice, authority without responsibility. That trade does not exist. Pain is the entry fee. You pay it up front, or you pay it later with regret. There is no discount for talent and no refund for excuses. Here's a truth that hits hard: people respect what is difficult to become. If your life looks easy, if your standards are low, if your routine is soft, the message is clear. You are replaceable. Pain signals investment. It tells the world you're serious. It tells your own mind that you can be trusted under stress. Another hook most people miss: pain refines your identity. When things are easy, anyone can show up. When things hurt, only the committed remain. Pain strips away the fake motivations and leaves the core. It reveals who you are when comfort is gone, and what's revealed under pressure becomes your reputation. Men who earn respect don't talk much about their struggles. They carry them. They don't broadcast effort. They stack it. Respect grows quietly when you choose hard paths consistently. It compounds when you do what others won't for longer than they can tolerate. Avoided pain turns into weakness. Embraced pain turns into leverage. Every time you push through resistance, you increase your threshold. Higher threshold means harder problems don't break you. And men who don't break under pressure become leaders by default. People look to them not because they ask to be followed, but because they can handle weight. There's also a brutal psychological shift that pain creates. You stop romanticizing ease. You stop expecting life to cooperate. You start operating with realism. That realism sharpens decisions. You waste less time. You complain less. You execute more. Pain teaches efficiency. Look at the men you respect instinctively. They're calm in chaos, focused under stress. They don't flinch when things go wrong. That steadiness didn't come from comfort. It came from repeated exposure to difficulty. Pain trained them to stay composed while others panic. Another uncomfortable truth: respect often arrives after isolation. When you choose the hard path, you will be misunderstood. You'll be alone while others choose ease. That loneliness is part of the price. But isolation builds independence, and independence builds authority. Men who rely on approval can't command respect. Pain also forces honesty. You can't lie to yourself when it hurts. You either show up or you don't. That clarity is powerful. It eliminates excuses. It hardens standards. And standards are what separate men who are tolerated from men who are respected. If you want respect, stop asking how to get it and start asking what you're willing to endure. Are you willing to be uncomfortable daily? Are you willing to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term stature? Are you willing to carry responsibility when it's heavy and thankless? Pain is not punishment. It's preparation. It's shaping you into someone the world has no choice but to take seriously. And once you've paid that price consistently, respect stops being something you chase. It becomes something people give without being asked. Talking feels powerful, but it produces nothing. Explaining feels intelligent, but it convinces no one. Most men don't want to accept the world does not listen to words, it watches results. You can promise, announce, justify, and defend all you want. None of it matters if outcomes are missing. Results end arguments instantly. They silence critics without confrontation. They remove the need for validation altogether. Most men talk because talking is safe. It creates the illusion of progress without the risk of failure. You tell people what you're going to do, how hard you're trying, why it hasn't worked yet. But every explanation weakens your position. High-value men don't explain their struggles because they're too busy producing evidence. When results appear, explanations become unnecessary. Here's the uncomfortable truth: people judge you by what changes around you, not by what you say inside your head. Your words don't pay your bills. Your intentions don't build your body. Your plans don't earn respect. Only execution does. And execution doesn't need a microphone. Another hook that cuts deep the more you talk, the less pressure you feel to perform. Announcing goals releases dopamine. It tricks your brain into feeling accomplished before the work is done. That's why so many men stay stuck at the level of potential. They talk themselves out of urgency. Men who win understand this instinctively. They move in silence, not because they're mysterious, but because silence keeps standards high. When you stop talking, there's no emotional escape. Either the work gets done or reality exposes you. That pressure sharpens focus. Silence creates accountability. Results also create authority. Authority isn't claimed, it's granted. You don't demand respect by insisting you're capable. You earn it by demonstrating capability repeatedly. When you walk into a room with results behind you, your presence changes the dynamic. People listen differently. They watch more closely. Not because you're louder, but because you're proven. There's also a psychological advantage to letting results speak. You stop arguing with people who don't matter. You stop defending yourself against opinions that don't pay you. You stop wasting energy on debates that don't move your life forward. Results simplify everything. They sort people instantly: supporters, doubters, imitators, and none of them require your attention. Another reality: most men ignore explanations, invite judgment. Results invite silence. When you explain, people feel entitled to evaluate you. When you deliver, they adjust automatically. That's why powerful men rarely justify themselves. Their track record does the talking. Results also protect you from self-deception. Words are flexible. You can twist them to feel better. Results are honest. They don't care how you feel. They don't negotiate. They either exist or they don't. That honesty keeps you grounded. It forces growth. Men who rely on words become defensive. Men who rely on results become calm. Calmness is a byproduct of competence. When you know you're putting in the work, you don't react emotionally to criticism. You let time and outcomes handle it. There's a reason history remembers builders, not talkers. Nobody studies the excuses of men who failed. Nobody quotes intentions. Legacy is built on outcomes, and outcomes are built quietly, consistently, without explanation. If you want your life to change, adopt a ruthless rule: stop explaining, start producing. Less commentary, more execution. Let the work accumulate. Let the results compound. Let silence replace justification, because in the end, the strongest statement you can make is not what you say, it's what your life proves. This is your closing warning. Life doesn't wait. Time doesn't care. Every day you delay, someone else is building the life you say you want. Man up doesn't mean being perfect. It means being relentless. It means showing up even when you're tired, doubting, and scared, especially then. So stand up. Decide who you're going to be. Cut the excuses. Cut the noise. Cut the weakness. And move. Because in the end, men are not remembered for what they said. They're remembered for what they built. Man up. No excuses.